All right, it is
Hello.
Figgie and Moose on this Monday. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm sorry, you are,
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
know,
After a week
uh,
off.
oh, great. How was it?
Oh, awesome. It was great. It went by too fast, just like everything else. It did.
Oh,
But
no.
had a great time on the beach. Great time spending with the kids and Donna and everything like that. It was absolutely awesome. I love it. Love
Awesome,
going to
bro. That's
Montauk.
great.
It's been a while. Been like 3 years since we've been out there. Kids were surfing out at Ditch Plains, which
Oh,
is great.
nice.
And so visited the Ditch Witch out there, which is a famous little food truck.
Yep.
So it was nice. Some fires on the beach at night. Listen to a
Oh,
little music. It was an amazing time. It really was. When just like everything else, Figgy, it goes by too quick. How have you been?
no doubt. I've been good. I've been good. Trying to hold down the fort. Of course, Mets and Yankees dominating headlines and our thoughts and prayers now, especially with Mr. Judd going to the IL. The Jets and Giants. Of course, there was also a large gasp heard around the world with Justin Fields' toe. And they called the tow truck for him, took him off the field, and everybody, it was fans actually, it was fans. Joe defended reporters of how they reacted, but the fans actually, started writing everywhere on the internet that the Jets are cursed and it's all over again. But Fields was on the field the very next day. So, but life is good, man. Life is good. Played a
Good.
little golf. Everything's good.
Well, nice. It's good to be back with you. Let's start with the Mets. How does a firecracker? Offensive statements left and right. They had a successful series out in San Francisco. They've won 7 in a row. They're back ahead of the Philadelphia Phillies by a game and a half in the National League East. And the Mets are, and we talked about it, the All-Star break team. More confident in. I felt about the Mets. We'll get to judge the judgeless Yankees in a little bit, but they went out and acquired Soto from the Baltimore Orioles, got a lefty reliever. The MLB trade deadline coming up later on this week, July 31st at 6 o'clock, but Met team's starting to play their best baseball when you wanted to see it the most.
Yeah, no doubt. And we said that, it was that just infusion of the top two starting pitchers getting back into the mix. Maybe lengthening up the ball games with the middle relief trying to catch their breath. So the All-Star break came at a good time for them. They still have pieces, of course, that they could use, but Soto was, I think, a tremendous fit for the Mets, left-handed plus stuff. Your Jazz Chisholm and all his charisma gave that interview to Yahoo talking about was one of the best left-handed pitchers in the game, and he thought that the Yankees were going after him and kind of was shocked that the Mets got him. Yeah, so that's a great pickup by the Mets when the Phillies went out to get a 40-plus-year-old David Robertson to help back in their bullpen. The Mets got a guy who I've always liked, plus fastball, big sweeper. He's shaping breaking balls, even bigger now. It looked really good in a Met uniform this weekend. Then, of course, Lindor broke out of the slump. Soto had a Soto moment finally in yesterday's game where they needed him to come through with a big hit, hits the home run opposite field. Shows that power, shows that ability to let the ball get deep all the way around. We saw good defense. We
Yeah.
saw pitching. We saw real baseball
Yeah, it's
the
great.
last 7 days.
That's why you're smiling. Figgy's hitting the golf ball straight and the Mets are winning games.
I
That's
mean,
it. That's all that matters. That's all that matters in Figgy's life, and getting a
that
nice
is true.
lunch, right? Some street
That is
meat in
true.
New York City on his way into the Pix 11 studios. That's when Figgy's cooking with gas, as my dad would say. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like, about the Mets. It just shows you the long MLB regular season. When you go through a swoon or you struggle a little bit, that's not necessarily the time that's going to define them. When they're playing some of their best baseball, not necessarily the team as well. It's when you're playing your best baseball. So you look at the New York Mets, and they're one of those teams that if they are able to plug a few of the holes, and they did with the Soto acquisition from Baltimore, who's sitting last place in the American League East and gets set to begin a series at home against the Toronto Blue Jays at Camden Yards later on this evening with Chris Bassett, the former Met, on the mound for Toronto. But they're playing the best baseball in all of Major League Baseball. But the Mets are one of those teams. If you plug in the right hole here or there, they get the right guys brought in by David Stearns and company. The Mets could be the last team standing at the end of October into November as World Series champs. I mean, that is on the table when you look at the New York Mets.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what they acquire at the trade deadline. Are they willing to push for something bigger, or are they comfortable with their mix and maybe adding around the edges? So it still remains to be seen. Eugenio Suarez, of course, sitting out there, the big fish. There was some speculation maybe the Mets would be interested, but I think you've seen the three-headed monster of Beatty, Mauricio yesterday. A tremendous game by Mauricio, of a splashdown home run. You don't get many opportunities as a visiting player to have a splashdown home run. He hits a big one. He shows you what that promise is about. Played some good third base. We saw, a lot of things that you really like, and if they can kind of keep this mix together, and there's teams that are reportedly interested in Starling Marte. Would that be a piece that goes and you get, maybe a reliever for him, and be able to let Vientos be the full-time DH, get maybe another outfielder. It's just, there's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of good things that are going on. Right now you're sitting here, with maybe some, maybe not pocket aces, but you feel pretty good. You got some pocket kings, and you can able to add and you put down, and you want the table to give you 3 more cards if you want to really fortify your hand.
Yeah, Vientos has hit better as of late. The power's just not been there. I mean, he's hit a home run here in the
Alvarez.
Right. I mean, so that's where, if I were the Mets, I would swing big at the MLB trade deadline. You can't go out there and just bank on it. Well, let's work on the edges. We're good enough. I would be super aggressive. I've got an owner that wants to be super aggressive. I get building a healthy farm system. I don't necessarily care about prospects. I don't care about, 5-6 years down the line and what that player, and not making stupid trades, and not making trades where you're trading Pete Crow Armstrong for Javier Baez because you're trying to appease or make Francisco Lindor, who you paid $341 million, a lot more comfortable, right? And then we got the dopey thumbs down stuff with Javier Baez to the fans, which you're never going to win. Not those kind of trades, but if you were the Mets, why wouldn't you be aggressive? Why wouldn't you go out there and say, let's try and stack this team and give ourselves the best opportunity to go win a World Series?
Yeah, and I think at this time, if you talk about like a guy like Suarez as a rental, you're going to give up maybe one of the pieces could be significant, but for what the guy is right now, he's the 3rd most prolific home run hitter in the game. He plays a really good third base as well, so it's kind of a plug and play, and you don't have to worry about it. Whereas, we've seen the young guns be hot and cold. Can you afford them to go cold? You hope all 3 can go cold at the same time, but we have seen it. We have seen it from time to time. So I think, a bigger move like that, we see Seth Lugo signed an extension with Kansas City, which some people feel makes him untouchable. I'm of the ilk, then you just have to bid higher, because now you'll have him for 3 years. And that'd be a tremendous guy to have in the middle of your rotation. I think you have to start looking at things like that. If it's going to take something a little bit bigger to get something for a little bit longer time, somebody that's under contract for a little bit longer, then you do that. If you're comfortable with that piece being in the middle of your staff, say for the starting rotation, back in the bullpen, I like what they have, and I still feel like Clay Holmes, he's not going to start for you in the playoffs. So you might as well start transitioning him a little bit, or eating his innings, or moving him around to a more pivotal role that can help the team, and also, have him have some gas in the tank when you get to October.
Yeah, and then you get to the Yankees, who right now, as we sit here on this Monday, trail the Toronto Blue Jays by 5.5 games in the American League East. They're going in the opposite direction as compared to the New York Mets. Their best player, Aaron Judge, on the IL with that flexor strain. They went out there and acquired McMahon from the Colorado Rockies. We'll see exactly what Brian Cashman does before the MLB trade deadline. I know the old adage is, we'll just get into the playoffs and let's see what you're going to do. This is a Yankee team that at one point in time had a commanding lead in the American League East. That is now long gone. So, and it's hard to envision this team playing good enough baseball, quality enough baseball, to think that they're going to catch the Toronto Blue Jays. Not saying that Toronto is going to play as well as they have here in the month of July. I think they're 17-5 in July. But it's hard to envision this Yankee team, Figgy, playing to that kind of level consistently, now not having Judge. And who knows how long Judge is out. They think it's going to be the minimal stay on the IL. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, it's great that it's not a torn UCL. It's great that it's not Tommy John surgery. That's all well and good. but we've seen what this Yankee team is without Judge being in the lineup on a day in, day out basis. You go back a couple of years ago when they went 82 and 80. They're not particularly good. This team had offensive issues with Judge. Now you take Judge out of the lineup. What is this team going to look like? And let's be honest. I mean, McMahon, who they acquired from Colorado, I get he's got a lefty swing. It's great that he had his first RBI, scored a couple runs and this and that, rejuvenated, going from dreadful Colorado to New York. But, he has not been – it's not like he's been a 350 hitter at Colorado either. He's not that it just shows you just how bad third base has been for the Yankees. But if you're a Yankee fan right now, beginning a series against the Tampa Bay Rays, you can understand those, being a little forlorn about where this team is right now.
Yeah, and when the trade was announced, most Yankee fans felt the same way. Like, what are we doing? We're bringing in another guy who's batting 220, which is 50, 60 points higher than the guys that you have then. The defense was the big part. I think that you're trying to acquire guys who have a higher baseball IQ, play defense at a higher level, things that you don't have to worry about. I mean, the other guys are still there. It's not necessarily just third base, right? You got problems with Volpe. Goldschmidt has made a couple of errors, but I trust Goldie a lot more than most. Bellinger has been phenomenal. He missed the ball. He didn't miss the ball. He lost the ball in the sky. But overall, his defense has been spectacular all over the field, left, right, center field, doesn't matter, even some first base. Ben Rice, putting Ben Rice over there, wherever you put Ben Rice, he's a defensive liability. And it just shows each and every game that he's out there. And so they had the beginning of that series before Toronto was 7 errors in 3 games, something you don't see outside of Little League normally. And, it was more the messaging coming from the Yankees that, everything was okay. Everything was just fine. Now Judge goes out with the elbow injury. And remember when he hurt the toe? Remember what we were first told when he hurt the toe? It was just a bruised toe. And he would be fine. He'd be day to day, not to worry about it. And then as we got closer to the 10 days being up, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, it's a torn ligament in his toe, and it's hard for a guy 6'7" to walk on it. So we have to figure out what exactly he's going to be able to do. I feel like the Yankees, they told you somewhat of what they saw, but they didn't tell you everything of what they saw, and that's what they've always done. They've always done that with injuries. So I'm not so sure. The thing is that Judge's bat's going to play no matter what. If he can still hit, he's going to hit. We saw 2 guys, both left-handed hitters, of course, with the right-handed Tommy John on both of them, with Shohei Ohtani and Bryce Harper. They still played while having their Tommy John surgeries, so they were able to play with it. I don't know how it is for a right-hander, if it's a different feel on the swing, because it's not just your lead arm. It doesn't turn over. This one kind of stays inside a lot and tucked when you go to swing. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to play, he's able to adapt and able to be productive, because I don't have any idea what baseball is pitching to him anyway. That's the bottom line. So his MVP standing has taken a hit. Cal Raleigh has jumped ahead of him in the betting odds. With hitting his 41st home run. So just things in Yankee land are in a very weird place.
No, it's a disaster.
And you've got Aaron Boone yelling at John Boy yelling at Aaron Boone, which I still don't understand this dynamic.
I missed that. What did he yell about? What was he yelling?
Because he kept saying, why do you keep saying he's good? He's been terrible about Volpe.
There was some. This was again last week. I missed it.
This was during last week where they went at it nose to nose, like on a live broadcast. I mean, he's yelling at him like, "I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. This kid is fine, and you're messing with him. You're asking the questions. I have to ask the questions because." And then John Boy went a step further. He went back to like his first podcast in 2018, and he was saying the same thing about Aaron Boone's team, where they were a defensive liability all over the field. And he goes, I've never changed my tune. Like, this has been a problem. So is it an organizational problem? Is it a positional problem? Is it just you're bringing in guys who can hit and they can't play defense? Or is it you don't have the coaches that are capable of getting the best out of these players on a day in and day out basis? And, these players nowadays are more lackadaisical and look what's going on. And he literally is giving it to him. And Boone is just firing back. Like, He couldn't, he doesn't normally talk to the media that way. He's always very cliche oriented and whatnot. This was very candid, and you can see the frustration
That's
on Aaron
good.
Boone.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's more a case of put it more on the players than anything else. Like,
You have to.
Jeter. Well, yeah, you look at guys that were great instinctual baseball players, like Derek Jeter. Was that a product of Joe Torre, or was that just professional pride that he took into himself? Like, there's an overall lack. I mean, we could have a bigger conversation about the Yankees in terms of the overall lack of accountability within the organization, what the standard is, what the expectations are on a day in, day out basis, what is rationalized and excused away, and what's not going to be tolerated. But I mean, there's a lot nowadays with the Yankees that's tolerated. I mean, it just is. They can scream and holler about the fact that it's not, but it just is. Actions speak louder than words. But I missed that. I got to go back and watch that one while I was away on vacation. John Boy and Aaron Boone get into it about Anthony Volpe, who becomes like a redheaded stepchild to the Yankees and the definition of modern day Yankee baseball.
Yeah, and it was one of the things that he said was, he goes, I want guys to take accountability, basically is what John Boy was telling him. And he goes, I don't care what you want. I don't care. So it was very heated, very passionate, and it was what you want to see out of Aaron Boone, but like in front of all of the media. It's show, hey, you know what? We've got to be better than this. You have to say that. It's just he literally was like, he's made a few more errors than his Gold Glove year. No, he hasn't made a few more errors. There's been a lot more boneheaded plays. There's been more boneheaded plays. There's been more.
Right. This is what you're going to get from Boone.
Yeah, not understanding the speed. It was funny. There was a play by Mauricio yesterday, a little dribbler up the third base line with 2 outs, man on second base, and he comes running in to scoop the ball, and he fakes like he's going to make a throw, and then he just turns around, and the guy from second was trying to get the third, and he just tagged him out easy. That would be the play that Volpe throws across the diamond, and it's short hop, and Goldschmidt goes to scoop it. It's up in the air, and the guy scores all the way from second base. We saw it already 3 times this year. And it's like, okay, once, learn from it. Twice, what are you doing? The third time, come on, bro. Like, you have to be better than that and stop using the excuse of, I'm just been told to be aggressive, and I'm aggressive when I play defense. And it's almost had an out-of-control speed is why he's trying to do everything, where the best shortstops in the game look like they slow everything down when the balls hit to them, right? They're not moving 1,000 miles an hour to try and hurry up the throw when there should be a internal clock that is, knowing who's hitting, knowing the speed of the runner, knowing how hard the balls hits you and how much time you have.
Yeah, don't disagree. 100% agree with you in terms of the assessment there. But we'll see what the Yankees do. We'll be talking a lot about the trade deadline. Mets, Yankees. It's July 31st later on this week at 6 o'clock Eastern time. We'll take a quick time out. It's a Monday edition of Figgie and the Moose. Come back and talk about the Hall of Fame class and the celebrations yesterday up in Cooperstown. We'll do that next right here. Figgie and the Moose on Pix 11 Plus. All right, welcome back. It's Figgie and the Moose. Marc, Malusis, Nelson, Figueroa back together again on this Monday. Hopefully everyone out there had themselves a wonderful weekend. And Figgie, we got Sabathia, Ichiro, Wagner, Hall of Fame class 2025. CC obviously looks significantly different with all the weight that he has lost since his playing days. Ichiro, gray-haired. He was gray-haired toward the tail end of his career. Billy Wagner getting in. What did you make of the Hall of Fame ceremonies over the weekend up at Cooperstown?
It was tremendous to see. It's always good to see the band of brothers get together and the previous guys that went in. You saw Biggio, Bagwell, Jeter being there. A lot of thanks to the captain for leading by example and setting the tone as a Yankee. And, they still consider him the captain. They will always consider him the captain. Ichiro, of course, having a funny moment, talking about, there was that one writer who didn't vote him in, so he didn't get the unanimous vote. And he said that the offer about dinner at my house has now expired because he's made the speech and the guy never reared his ugly head and nobody knew who it was, supposedly. Then you have Billy Wagner. You talk about the modern day Rudy story about a guy, who in high school was 5'3", throwing 83 miles an hour, goes to a Division III college, continues to work, continues to grind, and things start to click. Next thing you know, he is now one of only 8 relievers in the Hall of Fame. Left-handed, just had a gift and continued to hone his craft by. It was more mental than physical with him. It was, going from being a starter in the minor leagues and never closing a game to showing up to the big leagues thinking he's going to start. And they said, no, you're actually going to close out this ball game. We need you to. And he closes out that ball game, and the rest is history. He gave a lot of thanks to people up and down each and every organization that he had been to, ownership groups, even the Mets. Gave a shout out to the Wilpons for allowing him to come to New York and experience things at a different level. He thanked, he said, thank you to all the setup men that were ahead of me. One of the funniest things, he said, Russ Springer was a good one. Because I know Russ Springer. I played with Russ Springer my first year with the Diamondbacks when he was picked up in that the big expansion draft. So Russ Springer said, just remember, when you give the speech, all the times I had to face the 3, 4, and 5 hitters, so you could face the 6, 7, and 8 guys in the ninth. They didn't get those saves. He's like, no one ever mentioned those. He goes, so please, can you mention it? At least give me a shout out. And he did, and it was pretty funny and pretty accurate. Closers' job is just to get 3 outs, doesn't matter who it's against. And so some of those setup guys, had to bear the brunt. And he also gave a shout out to me that was very heartwarming and poignant to Octavio Dotel, who passed away. Made sure he mentioned him and said how he missed him. And so that was a very special moment. Moises Alou, being a good friend of his, and when he had his surgery, the Tommy John with the Mets, where he came back faster than anybody I've ever seen before he joined the Red Sox that year. Moises Alou used to visit him at the hospital, checked up on him constantly, making sure that he was okay because of their ties to the Astros that they had together. And, he said, I don't know a lick of Spanish, but Moises gave me enough to survive on. And he thanked him, and he said it in Spanish, mi pana, my partner, my brother. Thank you so much for everything. So it was a very heartfelt speech, very one of those things that, like, the further you look into, like, you can see the numbers, but to understand, like, the grind, like, I immediately, like, know exactly what, being the smaller guy, the Division III guy, the guy that no one gives a chance to, but man, he was so electric throughout his career. CC, of course, the other side of it, bigger, dominant, stronger, just willed his way to being that kind of pitcher, an ace in every sense of the word. No matter if it was in Cleveland or in New York, a lot of guys, they had that good year in the obscurity of small towns, and then when they get to the bright lights, it fizzles away, or the pressure gets to be too much.
Yeah.
CC was never that guy.
Well, but
Ichiro,
I'm sure
no doubt.
Yeah, I'm sure you're watching it. Listen, Ichiro was as good of a hitter as the sport's ever seen. Tremendous back control. Sabathia came here, signed with the Yankees, but I'm looking at it from a fan perspective. Know a lot of these guys, have relationships with a lot of these guys, so it's got that personal touch for you as a former baseball player.
Yeah, it really does, and you know that a guy like Wagner, who was on the edge, always on the bubble of even staying on the ballot, and then you start to see people like put up his numbers against the best of all time, and then you're like, okay, now it starts to make sense. Like, why is he not in the Hall of Fame? So it was good to see him finally get that phone call. CC, it was his first ballot for CC, no, second, right?
Second,
second, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was 5 years after you retired, and he retired till 1920, something around there. Anyway, but Ichiro, of course, like, the game has not seen a guy so talented and so small. Both those guys, Wagner and Ichiro, so small.
First year for Sabathia.
It was first year for Sabathia.
Yeah, I thought it was his first year. He got 86.4% first year.
I mean, that's phenomenal, because there are a lot of people who would argue the contrary. Then why isn't this guy? Then why isn't that guy? But I love. It was an eclectic mix. Shows you the game, and I always tell people about the universal language of baseball. You got a guy from Japan who came here speaking very little English, and he got better and better and gave his whole Hall of Fame speech in English, and it was one of the funniest speeches. And then you have Billy Wagner, who is from here, but his Virginia accent sometimes will take over. CC is just a guy that that booming voice, the mentality of he was team first, and whatever I got to do to help the team win. That's what aces do. they stopped losing streaks and continue on winning streaks. And there was nobody, during his Yankee tenure that, could be compared to what CC did in a Yankee uniform during that
No
time.
doubt. All well deserved. I mean, and people debate about Billy Wagner, Ichiro, Sabathia, but Sabathia and Ichiro, I mean, all of them, a tremendous accomplishment, a test to them, be able to stay healthy, be able to play brilliant baseball, and have themselves a wonderful afternoon up in Cooperstown. We're back together again. We'll be here each and every day. Marc, Malusis, Nelson, Figueroa, Figgie and the Moose. Figgie, good to be back with you here on this Monday on Pix 11 Plus. I'll see you tonight at the studio. We got mascots coming in tonight.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome. They were all out in San Francisco for the Lucille's Hall of Fame introduction. And did you see it last night? Where was while they were in the booth, they were all in the booth with the ESPN guys, and that's when Soto hits the opposite field home run, and Lucille turns around to Mr. Met and tells him to get out of the booth, get out of the booth. You're bad luck.
That's funny.
It'll be a good time as always. Getting back together, bro.
No doubt. I'll see you tonight at the studio. Thanks for being with us right here on Pix 11 Plus. Make sure to check out Sports Nation Nightly each and every night at 7 p.m. on Pix 11. For Nelson Figueroa, I'm Marc Malusis. This has been Figgie and the Moose.